That is absolutely right. Time for another Tuneday. Besides being a day that we get to talk about music, today we're kind of combining two of our favorite aspects of the media.
Mixing and matching.
Movies
and music.
Music.
Say that a couple times twice, right?
I can't even
Movies
say it
and
once.
music.
All right, as always, we're welcoming Judd from Kiss 98.5. You know, it's always great to hear that there's a lot of great movies that are being driven by these amazing soundtracks. And of course, the first one that we have to talk about is
Frozen, which I saw for the first time this weekend after it came out. I can't believe I didn't see it until this weekend. And now I know after seeing it why it did so well in the award season. And it officially hit #1 again on Billboard. That's a 6-week combined at #1 for the album, which is really a lot for a movie soundtrack.
And before we get into a little bit more about Frozen, we wanted to share this picture with you because The Breakfast Club, I think most of John Hughes' movies sort of changed the game for soundtracks and movies. So we're looking at a tweet sent out by Regal Cinema. It says, on this day 30 years ago, The Breakfast Club first met in detention. And I have to say, I think that, you know, this sort of changed how soundtracks were used in movies.
Yeah, this is one of the big ones. I mean, some of the songs you still hear on the radio. It's really an iconic soundtrack that will forever be. And I think this, like you said, it was one of the very first ones that kind of put soundtracks on the map. And of course, we've had other ones that have come through the line of, you know, think of like The Lion King. That was another soundtrack that you hear songs from still today. And I think that's a cool thing about movies is that the movies, while are really about the pictures and the storyline, there are some soundtracks that really stand out.
And when we're talking about a movie like Frozen, the soundtrack, and most Disney movies, those songs are integral to the plot of the movie also.
And they really do a nice job of weaving them in, so you don't, it's not like, here's a scene and song. They just kind of weave in throughout. And they're also stand aside as songs by their own. It's not necessarily something that only makes sense in the movie aspect, but you can buy the soundtrack and still enjoy the songs. Like Let It Go, great song.
And so when we're talking about Frozen, what are some of the songs besides Let It Go that people are really enjoying right now?
I think it's just the whole, there's not off the name of, the top of my head, but the Frozen obviously has Let It Go being the big one with Adele Dazeem, if you want to go with that, or
Dina Menzel.
Are we still call her that? And it's just a big one that the soundtrack did well in the awards season, and the whole movie, I think, fills around the music. And that's why people love it.
I wish we had footage of it, but there's an adorable video that's going around online of a young girl who is getting a sliver removed, and to get her through the pain, she's just scream singing, Do You Want to Build a Snowman, which is a song from Frozen.
Yeah, that was weaved in throughout a good chunk of the movie in lots of different places.
And it's absolutely adorable. So, but we're talking about movies with great music. We want to talk about Rio 2. Big name stars like Janelle Monáe. So what's happening with this? Because it hasn't been released, or has it been released?
No, it hasn't been released. It's coming out soon. The soundtrack officially released on Tuesday. Janelle Monáe, one of the names on it. The other big one is Bruno Mars, who also voices a character in the movie and sings a couple of songs on the album. There's a lot of buzz going around this movie, obviously because Rio, the first movie, was so well accepted. And this one they've just added to the star power with people like Janelle and Bruno on the soundtrack.
Now, do you think that there's a big market for a lot of these mainstream pop singers to come into these happier movies and happier songs like Pharrell Williams and Happy and Despicable Me Too? Do you think we're seeing a lot more of that than before?
We definitely are. I mean, Divergent just came out this past weekend, #1 in the box office. The soundtrack has Zedd, Ellie Goulding, a lot of big names on that, especially from the electronic side and the more alternative side. So I think more and more artists are willing to be on these movie soundtracks and lend their talents to a movie, either in a role like Bruno did with a song or just the soundtrack in general, because it's fun for them. They get to, I guess, step out of their own kind of style a little bit, because what Bruno, the song that he sings, if you haven't heard it yet, doesn't really sound like a Bruno Mars song. It definitely sounds like Bruno Mars, but it's not his necessary style.
And we're going off script a little bit talking about Divergent, but you wanted to. So how is that soundtrack? Is it a good one?
The soundtrack is great. The movie's great. I haven't seen it yet, but obviously it made like $56 million this past weekend. So plenty of people saw it. And the soundtrack is really good. We're playing actually 3 of the songs from the soundtrack on the radio. So when 3 songs from a single soundtrack can cross over to airplay, it's pretty big. So it's definitely a soundtrack to check out. And
Judd, of course, you don't just come here and do Tuneday for us. You're also on the radio for people that want to listen more. When are you on?
Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 on Kiss 98.5.
And of course, we'll have him again in the studio for another Tuesday.